Oh, hello, I didn't see you there. It seems that you've caught me playing with Diceself. Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, or whatever time zone it is with you on the world, and welcome to the first proper episode of the Playing With Diceself podcast, where I, some sad British Goth boy, plays TTRPGs solo style, and we're going to start off with Vampire the Masquerade 5th Edition, using my own homebrew, the Autarkis Storyteller. And what a good place to start with these sorts of things than with at the beginning, which starts us with creating our own Vampire the Masquerade 5th Edition character using the rules in the core book, plus the Autarkis Storyteller, because as I mentioned in the teaser episode previously, which you should really go and listen to right now, it is gorgeous. You're able to create characters with this, and NPCs, and entire chronicles, but as I said, we're going to rewind it a little bit, and we're going to use the homebrew to make a character by answering some questions and rolling some dice, and then afterwards, in later episodes, we're going to be doing a whole chronicle, where I'm not going to plan anything, I'm just going to let what's provided here to fuel the imagination, in addition to, well, the rest of the chronicle, as well as the characters. So, without further ado, let's get stuck in. So let's start with the character creation, which is the third chapter of the homebrew. You've got the introduction chapter, you have a second chapter which you're going to read yourself, and then you have chapter 3, the character creation chapter, as I keep saying, which requires you to use different dice. So if you like buying dice and just never get the chance to use them, congratulations, you can use them here, all by yourself. See, the homebrew works brilliantly in many different ways, not to toot his hoot even more. Anyway, let's get started. If we look at the first question, we'll have to decide the character's gender, and if that sort of thing bothers you, because you don't like pronouns and all that rubbish, go touch some grass. Just stop listening to what I'm doing and just go away. This isn't for you, okay? But at the same time, you may not want to do that. You know, for example, I'm a guy. I don't usually like playing characters that are of different genders to my own, which, you know what, that is totally okay. But if like the pronoun thing, you know, if I say they, them, they, she, and that's beginning to make you feel triggered or annoyed, go away. So, without further ado, I'm going to roll a d8 to decide the character's gender. Okay, so on my new dice collection, which is a lovely blue colour from my local game store, support your local game stores, I rolled a 6, so which the character is she, they, which a kind of fate stabbing me in the arse there. And in case you haven't worked out, I don't have any scripts for this, I am literally doing all this on the fly. So, in the special PC character sheet which I have designed for this homebrew, you can see me shuffling the papers about, where it says gender, I'm going to write down she, they. You can hear those pencil noises as well. How exciting. Anywho, we're going to move on to the second question, which is age, and there are 3 options to choose from: young adult, middle-aged, and elderly. Now, you can adapt this so you can play younger characters if you wish, but if you do this in a group setting, which you're more than welcome to do, by the way, check with the other players and storytellers first, because not everybody would want to have kids in their game as vampires. But you know what? But with the homebrew that's presented here, you can choose young, adult, middle-aged, or elderly. Now, the homebrew says to roll a d4, and if it's a 4, you obviously roll it again. But I got some really interesting dice over my birthday, which is just before Christmas of 2022, and one of those dice is actually a d3, which is actually a d6, but only goes up to 3. I'll link a description in the below for you to check out, but I'm going to refer to these as the Uggo dice, Uggo being slang for ugly. So I'm going to roll this d3, or d6.5, I guess. Okay, so we landed on a 3. So this character is an elderly character, which is very interesting, because you don't really get much of those in the world of darkness. It's just the young adult, middle-aged sort of affair. Yeah, so moving on to question 4, the upbringing, which is basically their mortal life as a kid. I'll just read this passage out briefly. Once upon a time, in a land not so far away, you were a child, depending on adult supervision. The whims of fate may have presented you with a pair of warm, caring hands, or a cold backhand just for existing. Whatever life handed to you, it shaped and became a part of you. What was your home like? What are your feelings and about your family? Which I misread because I'm an idiot and I can't read my own writing and base language. Anywho, with this question we roll a d12 and there are 11 options to choose from. I say to choose from because you can actually just look at these and go, I like number 9, which is criminal family, or you might like number 3, raised on the streets. You don't have to roll dice. These are just options presented for you, and you can interpret these however you wish. And that's the main thing. Everything's up for interpretation. It's what your imagination and your eye goes for. As I said, you can roll for it, or you can just choose whatever you want. It's super helpful like this. But I'm going to roll here, just to prove a point. Where is that d12? There we go. And that was a 1. Religious. I keep landing on the religious ones because there have been various playtests of this with many different people, and myself and my partner, Rikimon, whose socials I'll leave in the description below. They contributed to some of this with their original artwork, which I think is amazing. Quite biased, I know, but I wouldn't put shit material in this homebrew. We don't allow shit here other than the shit we create using the homebrew. But yeah, they did some artwork, they contributed some amazing tables, which we will get onto. Yeah, I kept telling them that we kept getting the religious character. It was quite funny. Anyway, upbringing, religious, more pencil noises. Fantastic. I don't know what I'm doing with my life. Anyway, as I said, no script. We're just winning the whole thing. Occupation. I mean, that's quite straightforward, is it? So yeah, what was this mortal's life? We don't have a name for her left. I just had to check that. But let's see, what dice do we need? A d10. Where is the d10? I'll move that out of the way. That being my phone, which has the homebrew on it, because obviously, being homebrew, you can't get this in a physical format. Okay, that's a 5. And for occupation, we have academic or teacher. A religious teacher. Not necessarily a religious teacher, though. We can come back to this. Of course, occupation, academic, slash teacher. I'm quite curious to see what they were actually teaching, if anything, and what level as well. Next we move on to ambition and desire, which are obviously V5 things that you write down in your on the main character sheet, which we have here, by the way. I've printed out the special one with a homebrew and a standard V5 character sheet, which I will fill out at later points, which I will go through with you as well, just because, you know, it's fun. So ambitions and desires. Now, of course, these are obviously dependent on the characters, but you roll 2 d10, one for the ambition, one for the desire. You can do them as 2 separate rolls or together. But yeah, there's some examples here. I'll read these for you. Knowledge, wealth, power, beauty, peace, vengeance, restoration, destruction, growth, and redemption. And that requires another d10 roll. We'll do the ambition first, and that landed on a 7, and that is restoration. I'll just make a note to that. A is restoration. And we'll do the desire next. The difference being, of course, the ambition is the longer of the two, and the desire is like the game-to-game thing. But of course, you may decide that you may only need one of them, or you want to have both of them. It really depends on you. And again, if you're using this in a group, it depends whether it's one-shot or chronicle, etc., etc., and so forth. So we'll roll for again to use for the desire, and that's a 10. Redemption. Ooh. That's interesting. Restoration for the so I'm getting this at the moment. The thing that's coming to my mind is that this is generally a pleasant person, which doesn't quite gel well with the world of darkness, which will probably make their embrace all the more tragic. The redemption is that they did something bad, and restoration they're kind of connected in a way. But I'm getting the idea that the redemption bit, that they did something wrong and they're trying to redo that, and restoration, they're probably connected in some way. Maybe there's a community or some sort of building they're wanting to restore, or something to do with their life, and that tying that with the religious themes as well, and the academic and a teacher. Maybe those two are connected in some way. Maybe the academic or teacher theme's not so much a teacher in the traditional sense. Maybe this is some sort of spiritual leader. At the moment, well, this isn't becoming as nice as I originally envisioned. You just see how with just a few prompts here, we're already jumping about various different ideas. And of course, the further that we go through with this process, hopefully we'll be able to define a bit more of a concrete answer. What's this? On the sixth question now. Is that the sixth question? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, sixth question is touchstones. Of course, the mortal associates that our characters are connected with, that keeps our vampires connected to their humanity, so they don't succumb to wasau, which is to say they become a white, a mindless-eating monster. Now, obviously, you can choose up to 3, and each one has its own associated conviction with them, which we will probably expand later on. For simplicity's sake, given the age of our character in mortal years, I'm going to elect to have 1. For simplicity's sake as well. Who knows? Maybe I'll change my mind when we do this roll, and I might just add to it as we go on. So I'll just put my phone over there so we have some more space to roll. Okay, that's a 2. And the second option here is someone of power, government, police, etc. Touchstones. I'll just write that down. My first thought was this is a police officer, and it's going to be this character's son. Why? I don't know. It was the first thing that just came to head. And also, I kind of feel that it connects to this whole theme of peace, not necessarily justice, but good morale, good moral sort of things. Maybe this police officer, who we will add to an NPC sheet, which I've also provided for this, later on. With the convictions, yeah, I'm not sure at the moment. I want to develop this character a bit more before we go back and fine-tune some things. But of course, if you're doing this and you already have the ideas coming to you, you don't have to wait for it. This is just how I'm doing it with this exact character. We move on to the Haven, which is obviously where their character resides, or doesn't reside, because having no Haven is always an option. It's also an option here. So, again, a D10, and we roll. That's a 2, a mobile home. My mind immediately thinks camper van sort of thing. One of those trucker things. Interesting, I'm going to make a note of that. I'll just put caravan ? And that's something that we can return to later on. And from this point onwards, we move into the more specific vampiric things. And anybody who was losing interest has just suddenly shot up in their chair or whatever. What vampires? Can we put a clan down now? No, not just yet, because we need to establish the relationship between sire and child, because as we all know, or at least I hope we all know, it's the embrace process isn't a pleasant one. I know we all wrap it around this sort of Anne Rice level of romanticism and tragedy, but it's quite traumatic. And we're going to start at the beginning of that process, as per usual, and we're going to have a look at the embrace. And because vampires are embraced in different ways, was it part of some sort of ritual or ceremony? Or was it just done really quick? Or was it planned? Like, on what level of planned was it? Was it violent? You know, all of these are different options that I am just semi-reading off of my phone, and the homebrew by extension. Or that should be the other way around. Anywho, let's roll the D10. That is a 3, and that is violent and savage. Oh dear. Violent and savage. Okay, so the idea that I have, before we move on to the next question, that this elderly person probably was trying to do the right thing, but obviously pissed the wrong person off. That you know, just like, wait, just they're minding their own business, just making their commute, I don't know, from like from a shop or whatever, the late hours, and they see something going off, like, you there, young man? Am I going to do that voice all the way through this? We'll work on that. But you know, and I made the assumption that the muggle was a man, but who knows? We'll see what happens. Violent and savage, yeah, and obviously the vampire just took a bloody beating, and you can just take those words and do whatever you want with them. Anywho, so rather than making assumptions about the sire, let's talk about the relationship between sire and child, which is an actual question header for the character creation process. Again, we roll a d10 to determine the relationship, because it may have started out that way, but I mean, I would be very surprised with this that it then becomes something more pleasant, but who knows? That's a 3. Predatory. Yep, I can see that working. So I'm definitely seeing that our kindred here fears their sire. The sire plays games with them, is preying on them, and given what I've just described a moment ago, just the ideas that are just coming forward with all of this, I probably had a bit of fun like chasing them about, all being, as I said, rather predatory. I'm just very excited. Just the ideas are brewing with me, and as I said, there's no real script for this. As you can probably tell, tripping over my words all the time. It's just this is the creativity that I'm hoping this homebrew will inspire with you, and it's at this point we get to determine the clan. And because I'm a helpful individual, there are 3 tables for you to look over. You have the core book clans, because not everybody's going to have access to the source book, so those books are they're not cheap, be it in PDF or physical format. So if you just have the core book, like you've just started playing, you've just heard about this homebrew, you can start playing straight away, and you don't want to choose, you got a table here for that. You can roll a d10 and re-roll again if it's a d10, because there are only 9 in the main book. Then you have the source book clans and bloodlines table, because maybe if you start buying a bit more and you've already been going over those different clans in the core book and you want to branch out a bit more, but again, you're overwhelmed with choice, you don't know what to do, but you know that you don't want to do one of the core book ones, so you've got a table for that in the source book clans and bloodlines table. You roll a d8, you get an 8, you roll again, because there's only 7 in total. And of course, if you have all of them and you're just overwhelmed with choice and you don't know what to do, you roll a d6 and a d12 in the all clans and bloodlines table. And that's the table that we're going to look at here for this character here. And I'm not going to roll a d6 and a d12 simply because I own a d16, which is part of that Ugo dice set I mentioned a while ago. So let's roll. That's a 10, and that lands us on Nosferatu. We got a fucking Nosferatu, boys, right on fucking brand. Haha, nice. Love it. Oh, that's got me really excited. Clan Nosferatu. That makes the embrace all that more horrific. Like, again, going back to what we were saying earlier on, like this person just mind their own business, seeing this going on, tap, tap, tap on the shoulder, like trying to pull them away or whatever, turns around, this fucking awful monster just beats the living daylights out of them, hunts them, makes them feel really small and insignificant. All that is grim. Oh, I love it. Before we get too carried away with this, then we have to decide the generation, which you can write next to clan on the interactive character sheet that I've provided, or directly onto your own character sheet, whatever floats your boat. We have to decide the generation, and we roll a d4 for 10, 11, 12, or 13. Now, if it was a thin-blooded character that you rolled up, they have their own generation table too. So we're going to roll a d4 for this, an actual d4, not like the abridged version I did earlier on with something else, and I can't even remember what that was. Gender, that was it. No, not gender, age. Okay, so I land on the 2, which means this is a Generation 11 vampire. So this is an Ancilla by V5 rules. We move on to predator types now, and similar with the clans, there are 3 different tables depending on the number of books that you own, because most of them are in the core books, some in source books, and then there's a table for all of them together. So for the core book ones, you roll a d10, for the source book ones, you roll a d4, and roll again if it's a 4, or in my case, you can use the silly little d6.5, or with all the predator types, you roll a d4 plus a d10. Now, unfortunately, I do not have a d14, so I will be using that table, the all predator types table, because I have all the books in my possession. So I'm going to find my d4, which is there, and I'm going to find the d10 is there. I'm going to roll both of these dice, and I'm going to do some simple arithmetic. Okay, so we've got a 2 and we've got a 1. That makes 3. So our character has the bagger predator type, my least favorite one in the entire source book, called all V5. Great, but that's okay, because if you don't like it, you can just choose something else, or roll again. But I am a man of my word here. We will be choosing bagger. It'll provide some interesting opportunities, I'm sure. Now, we're going to skip some of the stuff that's in the character creation chapter, simply because we have character disciplines, which doesn't apply to us. We have venture feeding preferences, which doesn't apply to us, but we do have this one for Nosferatu appearances, and there's a whole host of options to really make your Nosferatu more monstrous, more horrific, and I'm really glad that we landed on one of these unique ones, because it gives us a chance to explore some of the more unique elements of the homebrew, because you can't find this anywhere else. And what you do here, there are 20 options to choose from, which I will briefly read out. Peculiar skin colour, small/slitted nose, no nose, small goblin-like ears, large bat-like ears, misshapen mouth/maw, webbed fingers and/or toes, pointy fangs, tall/lanky, short, scaly, hairy, hairless, gaunt, uneven toes and/or fingers, sticky/mucousy, fragrant, animalistic eyes, serpentine tongue, and altered/beastly voice. And if you're counting, there's 20 to choose from, which means you get to roll a d20 in Vampire, and no, oh, crazy! Now, the really cool thing with this portion of the character creation chapter is that you can keep rolling that d20 as many times as you like. Maybe you want to have all those options or select few, but if you're rolling a d20 and let's say you landed on a 19 twice, you couldn't make it even more monstrous or detract things. You know, it's really flexible how you can do this, and it's built into the mechanics of the system. So, I'm going to roll the d20 4 times. You know, that should hopefully give us some plenty of interesting things to work with. The first roll, we have a 6, and the 6th one is misshapen mouth/maw. I'll just write that down briefly. Misshapen. I'm going to say it's a maw. So, just to pause here for a moment with the features. Tying this all into our concept, this to me, with the whole redemption theme and the predatory theme, I think we've got ourselves a bit of a Cleopatra here. Not necessarily in the sense of like, oh, I'm such a diva, like how it's presented in V5, but maybe somebody who's... I've got it. The upbringing was religious. Maybe this teacher or this preacher is a vicar. This character was a vicar, and this character here feels they're being punished and they've done something. They're embraced, and what's happened to them is punishment. It's punishment. They feel it's punishment, like some evil has been brought forward, similar to the origin story of the Nosferatu in general. Oh, that is golden. This could turn the character in quite a nasty piece of work. Oh, that is gorgeous. Oh, that... You see, just one or a couple of rolls here, and I was just thinking about the misshapen maw being quite monstrous. Well, obviously with misshapen maw and being quite, maybe devilish. And that was what led me onto that trailer thought. It's just a few couple of things can just provide huge wafts of story for your character. Anyway, to get back on track on a huge tangent that I've just cut out of the whole editing process, we're going to roll 3 more times on the d20. We have misshapen maw. 1, which is a peculiar skin colour. And we can decide the colour later on, because there's actually a table for that sort of thing, which we can adapt here. So we've got 2, there's 2 more to go. That's a 10, which is short. Interesting. So the deformations of the Nosferatu embrace is probably shrunken down this individual. The implication being they're quite tall or average sized for an elderly femme-presenting person. And the last one is a 5. Let's see, large bat-like ears. Oh, beautiful. Large bat ears, because my handwriting is huge and I needed to cut down some things. Okay, so we now skip a couple more here and we move on to appearance and attire. Remember earlier on I said my partner did some of the work for this, besides amazing artwork? It's this portion here where they designed a whole variety of custom character customization options, all bar one, which is general cultural region, which is the one that I did. And for my own sanity, I'm only not going to do that one, simply because it's similar with the gender thing. I don't feel comfortable portraying characters of different cultures. As a storyteller, you have a bit more leniency, you know, you do your own research and things, but for the general regions thing, I'm just going to stick with a British, European, is what I feel comfortable with, and I don't want to make a huge tit of myself, or at least not in a negative sense. So, obviously you have, there's 12 to choose from, you roll a d12, you get different places from all over the world. Hairstyles. I wasn't going to do this character, but you know what? Sod it. Let's roll a d10 to decide the sort of hairstyle this character has. And where is that d10? There we go. We have a 5. So this elderly Nosferatu has braids. Because why not? Hair length. Oh, and before I carry on, you can roll multiple hairstyles, as it's encouraged here in this chapter, you know, just because you might have braids, like a middle part, you know, sort of thing going on. I won't, just you know, keeping things simple, and also I'm running out of space rapidly to write on. So hairstyle, we've decided, hair length, and we do that by rolling a d4. That's a 2, so short braids. Then we have texture. Again, roll another d4. The texture of the hair, obviously, this is. We've got a 1, straight. A very fashionable hairstyle for this elderly Nosferatu. Hair and eye colour. And we're going to roll on this table twice, for which we roll a d12. I'm going to use this to determine the colour of the character's skin. As again, just because it's labelled hair/eye colour in this case, it doesn't mean that you can't use it for other things. It has many uses, these tables. For that we do a d12. We're going to do the eye colour first. He says trying to find the d12. Is that the d12? Yes. That's an 8. So the hair colour is green. Okay, interesting choice. And I'm going to roll another d12 just to assign the peculiar skin colour. What is that? That is a 1, white. Isn't that peculiar? I'm going to assume that this is more like a milky sort of... We'll go with milk white. Then we have a look at the facial features. Facial features and fashion style. Yeah, alright. I said I was going to do them, so let's do them. And for these, we do d20. We're going to do fashion style, a 13, and we have facial hair. Okay, we're going to do that. I mean, this is a Nosferatu after all. And perhaps this individual was transitioning. Maybe that's why there's she, they. And it's never too late for this sort of thing, and I'm absolutely okay with that. Trans rights are human rights, and if you don't like that, go fuck yourself. Yeah, let's go with that. I'm totally okay with that. And finally, the last table for this portion of homebrew, we have a fashion style. And again, we rolled a d20. That's a, what was that, 17? I had to check, make sure that wasn't an 11. 17, 90s. Okay. I have no idea what that would entail, but because all I can imagine is just backwards caps and massive puffer jackets. Well, maybe that was when they embraced. Well, actually, it's an answer, so that doesn't really count. But you know what? We can work out the finer details of that later, because that's the character creation portion of the homebrew. And it got a bit crazy. We have some really interesting ideas here. We sort of have this Cleopatra sort of Nosferatu. At least that's the image I'm getting in my mind, and we're going to stick with that. This is a Cleopatra Nosferatu. But with the ambitions and desire of restoration and redemption, I am thinking that maybe, just maybe, this Nosferatu is part of the cult of Yima. Because as introduced in Cults of the Blood Gods in V5, the cult of Yima, like worship and revere Yima, and there's the whole myth surrounding Yima that their blood can make them more beautiful. Or maybe, they are wanting to be part of the Nephilim. But there is a cult thing here, and I like that, and with the religious ties as well. Well, we can think about that later on. Actually, having a predator type of bagger, which I've reminded myself of, I say that this is more of a peaceful Nosferatu, peaceful in the sense that they're not the Cleopatra that this isn't a Nick Tuku brand, shall we say. This isn't what they call the withered ones. This is more peaceful, like wanting to revert redemption and restoration of themselves, their skin, their condition. And redemption is whatever crime they've committed. There we go. That's the character concept. And to that, we are actually going to start filling out this character sheet and strike the iron whilst it's hot. Okay, name. The homebrew doesn't have name generators because we begin to enter that really murky ground of a lot genuine sounding names, especially for the more Asian ones. And I'm using that as an example because those are the ones that are the most problematic. So to that, I'm going to be a hypocrite here. I'm actually just going to go into a simple name generator for the UK one. But obviously, if you're from that part of the world or you have that upbringing and can do the research, do whatever. But for the simplicity's sake, we're going to stick with the British one. And yeah, I'm just going to go into a name generator. Name generator UK female Doris Stone. Doris. Perfect. Name Doris Stone. Chronicle. Playing with Diceself. Sire. We haven't decided the name for the sire, which we can add to an NPC sheet. Heather. Wow, we're getting some really stellar names here. Sire. Heather. It just reeks of monster, that. Heather. Concept. I'm going to give that for now. Ambition. Don't have much of a box to write in, actually. I'll just put less ugly because I know what that means. We've discussed what that means and we know what that means. Desire. Actually, no, we're going to do that the other way around. Ambition. Because ambition was restoration, yeah. Ambition is restoration, so yeah, less ugly, more beaut. Desire, atone for sins. Predator, Baga, Clan, Nosferatu, Generation 11. Concept. Interesting, this, because we're touching upon the whole teacher, Given the generation thing, I feel they would have some sort of status within a cult. The cult of Yima. But given their things, their ambitions and desires, I'm just going to put down Yima cult adherent. And I guess we can actually start doing the rest of the character sheet now. Starting with the attributes. This isn't going to be like a proper how-to-do guide because I've already done that. It's episode 2 of the podcast. Go and check that out if you haven't done already. It is a banger. So attributes, physical, social, mental. The way I start with the highest one and the lowest one and then fill the others out in between. Being somewhat of a preacher. Well, I haven't actually decided whether they're a preacher, but we are deciding now that this Nosferatu is somewhat of a preacher. So I'm actually going to put charisma as 4. 2, 3, 4. Given their age, their physical age, do we put strength at 1? I'm going to put their strength at 1. This is probably going to bite me on the arse later on. It might make this a rather short chronicle, but that's fine. But now we just fill the rest out as per. I'm going to put composure and resolve as a 3. They've been quite hardened up to all of this, and, you know, I'd already established earlier on that they attempted to intervene with a mugging of some description, so it's quite foolish. But they had the resolve enough, you know, to stand up and do the right thing. What's that? 3 of each. That gives us 6 willpower. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just colouring out those remaining 4 boxes on the far right. We've done 3 for each. Let's see, what can we do? I think being somewhat of a goal, they'd be trying to induct other Nosferatus here. There's probably that little bit beneath them that's resenting other Nosferatu. As I'm currently thinking about this, I'm going to make that a thing. So there's going to be a high level of manipulation to get people in, which leaves wits, intelligence, dexterity, and stamina all at 2. I'll just colour those in with a pencil. And our health is 5, because stamina plus 3 is 5, and that's okay. That's not too shabby. I'm okay with that. Next is skills, and we have to pick one distribution, jack of all trades, balanced, or specialist. I might metagame here a little bit, which I'm more than entitled to do. It is my game after all, but I really don't want to do specialist. Specialist is by far the worst one. I don't think jack of all trades is happening. We only know a small portion of Doris's life here. Like, we know they're religious and they were a teacher, but we don't know the rest of it, do we? No. we don't know the rest of their life. So I'm actually going to be generous in this regard and do balanced. Because I think Jack of all trades is just silly, and specialist is just... you know what? Metagaming, balance makes the most sense, because metagaming. So balanced. So let's see, what can we do here? 3 skills at 3, 5 skills at 2, and 7 skills at 1. Well, there's going to be some knowledge in occult, because of the cult of Yima thing, which I'll be generous and put that one at 3. Let's see, investigation. I mean, they are an Ansel of Vampire, so they've been around for quite a bit. You know, whether at the bottom end or the top end, because remember in V5, it's an Ansel that's embraced between 1780 and 1940. Because even if they were embraced at the 1940 period, they would have been around the block for quite a bit. Doris has lived the full extent of their life, and then they were turned into an unrecognisable monster. Which, their one touchstone, their police officer son, which I don't even think applies anymore, so it's probably a grandson. So I'm going to edit that on the sheet real quickly, now that we have that there. Where is the priest? G-son. Yeah, that'll make sense to me in a month's time. A month's time? I'm really enthusiastic about this, apparently. A day's time. That's fine. Okay, so we've got Occultist 3. What else are we going to add? Yeah, they've been around the block quite a bit, so I think they would have their wits about them. So I would say I'm going to put 3 at Insight and 3 in Investigation. What was it? 5 skills at 2. I'm going to put Streetwise at 1. One of the ones that are 1. I'm going to put Persuasion at 2. Performance. You know, just working up the sheet here. Church, singing. I would say that, you know, being of a churchy figure, they would have some vocal capabilities. So yeah, I'll put that at 1. Performance, church, hymn. Let's do 5 at 1. Leadership. Well, we kind of established that they don't have that much of a standing within the cult, so this is a relatively new thing for them. But I think they've obviously been in enough to know about it and to know something. So I put a point in leadership there. How many we've got? 1, 2, 3. Okay. Intimidation. Doris doesn't seem one to be very frightening in that regard. Not intentionally scary anyway. They're not the sort of, you know, beat people up or frighten them. But again, they've been around a little bit. Being embraced as a Nosferatu has changed them, and they're wanting to revert their course. So there is some anger there. Yeah, okay. I'm going to put a dot on intimidation there. So what we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that's all the 1s sorted. So we just need to sort out the rest of the 2s, and we have 5. Oh, it's 7 for balance, isn't it? Beg your pardon. Let's see. Can they drive? Yeah, I'd say they drive. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There'll be some stealth there. I'm going to put that 2. Looking at my character sheet real quick. 2, 2. Okay, so there's a bit more to do. They would have some capabilities of fighting. So again, I'm just having to check to make sure that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Some brawl. Some melee. Not much. Fighting is not their go-to thing here. And I have to remember that when I'm role-playing later on. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, now I need to do the remainder of the 2. So 1, 2. There's some larceny. I'd say there's some stealth there. Absolutely. And we've got 3. Athletics. In their frame. Curious. See, because I want to put 1. We can add the 1 there with experience points. Let's see, 2, 2, 2. That's 3. So need 2 more. Subterfuge. Yeah, I mean, they're a vampire. They've been around the block a little bit. There would be some line. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, and awareness, of course. How can we forget about awareness? Is it just going to tally out? So we got 3 skills at 3. 1, 2, 3. Yep. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, and the ones 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Have we gone 1, 1? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, 7. Okay, cool. Moving on. Oh, that's right, the specialties. We've done one for performance, because that's the one that we have to do, and now we choose one other. The one that springs to mind here is Cult of Yima for the occult. I mean, they've been around for a bit of it. I can't think of anything else that would be. So what is that? There you are. Cult of Yima. Cool. Disciplines. Choose 2 from your clan disciplines. I mean, I don't see this being a Nosferatu with a lot of potence. You know, potence, being the physical one. One of the main physical ones. So, obfuscate is a must. That's going to be the 2 one. And animalism, I'm going to put down for Doris here. The specific powers, we're going to go for obfuscate first, because that's the one with the 2s that's most difficult to decide for me. It's my favourite discipline. Let's see, Cloak of Shadows, Silence of Death, Unseen Passage. Well, Unseen Passage is a must, and yeah, it's going to be Cloak of Shadows and Unseen Passage. I know how original. Cloak of Shadows. And what was the other one? Unseen Passage. I'm going to go back to animalism, he said with a pencil in his mouth. There's animalism, I can say with a pencil out my mouth now, cutting all that searching out. I haven't used animalism very much, so this will be a very interesting one for me. I've got Bond, Famulus, Sense the Beast. Oh god, they're awful. I hate animalism. Vampire Sense the Beast, present in mortals, vampires, and other supernaturals gain a sense of their nature, hunger, and hostility. You know what? I think Sense the Beast would be most appropriate here, simply because, the whole vicar... When I was reading that just then, I was thinking, going back to the whole preacher thing, using that as a thing, sitting in the confession booth, like, you confessing your sins, that sort of thing, in their religious days. And I'm kind of seeing that, because the Beast, being a lot more angry and hostile. I know it doesn't work like this. I'm just going to read the system really quickly. Yeah, Sense the Beast seems the most appropriate one here. It's about sensing the hostility, and depending on the successes, we can work out what sort of breed the individual is. So yeah, we're going to go for Sense the Beast. It's again the whole, I sense great sin in you sort of thing. Sense the Beast. Often sauce. And here we are, we move on to predator types. You might notice the edits are a bit more obvious now, just jumping to different sections of the book to read things. So yeah, apologies for that, but whatever. We decided, or rather the dice decided earlier on, that the predator type was Bagger. Again, my least favourite one, after Sandman. Let's see, what does Bagger offer us? Add a specialty in larceny, lockpicking, or streetwise, a black market. I don't think the black market would apply to Doris too much, so we're going to put a specialty in larceny. What was it? Lockpicking. Yes, that has no dots in it whatsoever, but that's fine. Gain 1 dot of blood, sorcery, Tremere only, or obfuscate. Okay, this is actually working a lot better. Obfuscate. I'm going to go back to obfuscate, he said with a pencil in his mouth. Okay, we're back to obfuscate, pencil not in mouth. Is this going to be a running joke for this? I think it's going to be a running joke for this. So back at obfuscate, and it's quite obvious which of the level 3 powers we're going to choose. We're going to choose Mask of 1,000 Faces. I can't see Ghost in the Machine applying too much to Doris. Maybe it would, but I'm just thinking Doris's age, technology, it wasn't really a thing. It doesn't really quite apply here as much, but you know what, the power obviously existed before technology did, but Mask of 1,000 Faces is the one that I think is going to be the one that Doris would use, especially as with the whole theme of, wanting to not be Nosferatu, to not have such a fugly appearance. Not that Doris would ever use such language, but Mask of 1,000 Faces is more... Mask of 1,000 Faces, rather, of 1,000 Faces. There. Back to the Bagger Predator type. We've just put in the 3rd dot of Obfuscate. We go the gaining the merit... feeding merit Iron Gullet, which makes perfect sense. I'll just go to my 2nd character sheet page. Where is it? Enemy... What was it? You're looking at the wrong one. Iron Gullet, 3 dots, and gain the enemy flaw. Either someone believes you owe them, or there's another reason you keep off the streets. I think this is going to be someone who believes you owe them something. I'm just going to write that. Enemy. What was that? 2. Because my first thought was an associate of the Sire, who we decided was called Heather. Enemy. Mate of Heather. And we can decide the nature of that as we play, because they're tables to decide all that gameplay stuff too. So once we have done that, we'll have to decide now our advantages. Spend 7 points in advantages and take 2 points of flaws in addition from your predator type. So I filled out the advantages and the flaws portions because it took way too long and that's just not interesting to listen to. I added in obviously the mobile haven, which is at 1, a contact at 2 who I've just called Steve for tech related things, which I'll add to an NPC sheet all of his own. I've also taken an advantage from Children of the Blood, Travelling Preacher. Basically, I know safe routes and places to go and preach my stuff, and that's a 2-dot merit. And Respected, sorry, a status 1. I realised I wrote that wrong. For obviously the Cult of Yemen, I've made a note for that there. And for the flaws, I just chose Bond Slave because that would be interesting. And we're reaching the end of the character creation process because there's the convictions and the touchstones, which we did earlier on, and then there's the Sea of Time bit, which is basically the experience points. And because Doris is a Generation 11 vampire, I'm going to say they're embracing the 1940 just because I can't see them being, what we've presented, being anything older than that. Generation 10 or 11, Blood Potency 2, so I'm just going to open up Children of Blood, which is currently holding the character sheet. Blood Potency 2. I will fill out the Blood Potency stuff later on, just so we can wrap this up. For the additional advantages and flaws, I've put Folkloric Block, Water and Crosses, because I think that would make some very interesting things for our religious elderly Doris. And for the 2 dots and advantages, or merits, whatever you want to call them, I put Eat Food, because I think that could be interesting. There may be, the thinking I had was that, oh, they can eat food, they may not be able to taste anything, but this is definitely a sin. This curse that's on them, so to, well, it is a curse, but, you know, there is still hope for redemption and that sort of thing. And then there is the 35 experience points, and in order to do this, I'm actually going to put on a calculator because I am notorious bad at maths. Literally ask anybody who knows me. So we have 2 disciplines here, and I would actually like a third one. As I said, obfuscate and animalism are the ones that are most likely. I'm actually going to be a little cheeky, and I'm actually going to give Doris presents. Why are you going to give Doris presents? Because I think with the whole preaching thing, you know, giving sermons and things, that I won't say that they've naturally learned it, because it's something that presence doesn't work like that. So I think they would have heard about this and they would have gotten somebody to teach them, which is somebody we can add to an NPC list. And I'll actually make a note of that. Someone who taught, like a coterie member. Yes, a coterie member, that sort of thing. I'll make a note of that. Coterie member presence. What is that? Other discipline, new level times 7. We're just going to go with or. Presence 1. Just or, because 35 take 7 is 28. I could take another. You know what? I'm gonna go with the other one and go with Daunt, because I think Doris would need all the help that they will get if they ever want to intimidate somebody. So that's now 14. Yes, take another. Yeah. And that leaves us with 14 to spend with. I won't add. Oh, I can't add any more. Can I? No. I could add another dot of animalism. I'm just going to put the pencil back in my mouth, and I'm going to quickly get over to. Okay, so we've got feral whisperers. Okay, we're going to put Bond Famulus, or whatever it's called. Just going to put that there. That's now 2 dots. The times 10. That takes us down to 4. No, putting the calculator on. That's down to 10. Okay, leaving it at 4. Just going to go back to the character creation summary. And let's see. We can't actually. We could give ourselves a dot in something. So I'm actually going to put a dot in athletics, because it's a new level times 3, which leaves us with 1 experience point. We have spent 34, and our total experience is 1. And there we have it. In just under an hour, we have made a Vampire the Masquerade 5th Edition character, primarily using dice rolls and our own imagination. And oh boy, I am so excited to be playing. This is a character that I wouldn't usually play. I like my characters to be usable. But you know what? Joking aside, this has presented a very interesting narrative. Like, I mean, what sort of mischief is Doris, our bearded, she, they, I guess demi-femme, non-binary, not non-binary, beg your pardon, demi-femme Nosferatu is going to get into? Again, we're just going to have to play Vampire the Masquerade 5th Edition using the rest of the Autarkis Storyteller homebrew. So if you like what you've seen so far and this excites you, check out the Lore by Night VTM Twitter and Instagram pages to find out all homebrew related themes, and of course the regular podcasts, both the Lore by Night podcast and Playing With Diceself, which is a separate podcast that we're doing on the Lore by Night YouTube channel that's doing solo TTRPG stuff, so I can show you that you can play World of Darkness and Chronicles of Darkness games and any other TTRPG by yourself. And, well, until next time, farewell.